Advisory Budget Committee. Woo-hoo. It's May 21st at 6 p.m. Some introductions, since we have some new members, or a new member at least, and members in different roles. My name is Sharon Schilling. I'm the current vice chairman from last year's board. Our chairman retired, so that position is open. To my right is Joe Dame, who is also a regular elected member of the board from 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
2 years ago now.
This is my second year.
Yeah. On my left is Josh Shackford, who was elected this last go around from town hall, or from a town meeting. Sorry about that. You're elected to a 3-year term, 2-year term?
Yes, 3-year.
3-year term. And then also to my right is Joy Gray, who is our select board representative to the Advisory Budget Committee. That position is an ex officio position, so it is a voting member. Not in attendance tonight is Sarah DiMartino, who is the school board ex officio member, which is also an elected, or a voting member of the school board, or of the Advisory Budget Committee. Welcome and introductions done. Let's move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Joe, would you like to lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Joe, pledge. Okay, that being completed, the next order of business. I have a question though, Linda. Do these have to be taken in this order? I don't think so, no? Right? Okay. I'm just wondering if there's any moving public comment to the top or any of those kinds of things. Doesn't matter. We can do it anywhere, right?
It's entirely up to you guys if you'd like to change it.
Okay. The next order is number 3, which says election of officers for the coming year. The 2 positions that get elected are the chairman and the vice chairman. Do I have any nominations? Oh, come on.
As vice chair, I will nominate you to step up to chair. I nominate Sharon.
I'll second that.
Second. Yeah,
Okay,
second.
so we got Linda. Josh seconded before Joe did. So.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Are there any other nominations from the floor anywhere? Mr. Judkins, being the only floor we have? No? All right. Well, then I guess a vote's in order. All those in favor say aye.
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 Passed unanimous. Vice Chair, are there any nominations?
You've done a lot of work on a lot of things. You willing to take on the title of vice chair? I nominate Joe Dane.
Okay, I'll do it, yeah. Just,
I second.
no,
Joe Dane's
I'm
vice
willing
chair.
to do it. I mean, yeah, I don't mind. I'll do it. No, that's fine.
Okay. Then I second the nomination. Are there any other nominations from the floor? There being none, all those in favor of Joe Dame as vice chairman, say aye.
Aye.
I wanna vote for
Unanimous,
myself.
okay.
That's kind of awkward.
All right,
Make it
those
unanimous.
elections or those positions are only effective for 1 year, so next year, when we reconvene, we will need to review and re-elect. Okay, so next on the agenda is review of the ABC's past year performance and discussion of expectations. But I think it also dovetails into number 5, which we seem to have 2 of. I didn't catch that. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Discussion of the ABC's process and any changes the committee would adopt. I think both of those pieces kind of dovetail together, and I think that we can have that discussion, and we'll, if there's any resolution to it or any motions or any of those things, we'll make sure that we're very definitive about what it is that we're talking about. Would anybody like to comment first before I start blathering? No?
No, well, I was new last year,
Mhm.
and so it was a great learning opportunity to see how the town budget's put together and the process, how it's approved, and all the way through the town meeting. So I thought it was pretty good. I learned a lot, the different departments and funding requirements and things, so I thought it was really good. I thought we did pretty well. We were engaged, I thought, and We gave thorough reviews to the budget line items. We asked a lot of questions, and I think hopefully we had a positive impact.
And, looking at that, I think that we probably peeled back the budget more so last year than the committee has in probably at least in all the time that I've lived here, and then maybe going back a couple more years before that. From a standpoint of both the advisory budget committee and a taxpayer, I believe that it's part of our responsibility to make sure that we completely understand that budget, understand where those numbers are coming from, what they lead to, what they go to, so that as we're recommending to the selectmen and to the town on each, not just on the budget, but also on the warrant articles, that we have an explanation for why we believe what we believe, and that we are able to rationally state that, and to make sure that as we are developing our opinion and our votes regarding the budget items and the warrant articles, again, that we have rational, sound opinions about it. With regard to expectations, let me just say that as the chairman, I expect that we conduct ourselves with decorum, that we're professional about how we interact with each other. We are going to continue to ask hard questions, but I don't want anyone to mistake the fact that we may or may not be asking hard questions about something as an indictment. I know that the town manager, administrator, the department heads, the employees of this town work really, really hard on developing these budgets. They're not an easy thing to do. It's a complicated budget. Any town is. And we are not saying in any way, shape, or form when we ask a question. We are asking to seek more information. We are asking to seek greater understanding, and in the end, be able to defend a position, yay or nay. If anyone has any concerns or any questions or any issues with that, I think that they should feel free to step forward and either approach me or any other member of the budget committee and make sure that if they have a concern, that we're aware of what that concern is, and that if they have an issue, that they bring it either as a public member to the board, or, to the committee meetings, or send it to us in writing. Not that I want to make more work for Linda when she gets the emails, but you have to communicate, because in the end, it's the taxpayer who votes. It's the taxpayer whose responsibility it is to, have all of this money be sent to town hall to be used in a way that the taxpayer wants it to be used. And if you don't have a voice, if you don't use your voice, then you really have no say. You've taken yourself out of having a say, and that's not what we want. We want people to have a say. Does anybody have anything that they want to add?
We
No?
covered a lot.
No.
Nope, all set.
All set? Okay. Discuss the ABC's process and any changes the committee would adopt. I think one of the things we should probably discuss is the change to the town budgeting ordinance. There were two changes. One that was noticed and read about, and it had to deal with the terms. So if we have a vacancy on the board, as we do now, the chairman is free to appoint anyone into those vacancies, but that appointment is only good until the next town meeting. Okay, that vacancy is not good for the length of the term of the position. If Joe were to step down and he still had 2 years left on his election, I would not be able to appoint someone for that 2-year term. I would only be able to appoint them for the 1-year term, and then they would have to run for a subsequent seat, whether it be 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, whatever it might be. That is more in keeping, I believe, with many of the other boards. Wasn't that one of the reasons we did that, Linda, was to be in keeping with the select board?
More actually with how the RSA reads when it
The
comes to
RSA.
doing reappointments.
Yeah. The second piece that's in here, under organization, talks about the advisory budget committee shall consist of 7 members. 5 are to be elected from registered voters. No selectman, town manager, member of the school board, village district commissioner, full-time employee or part-time department head of the town, school district, or village district or associated agency shall serve as an elected member of the advisory budget committee. Every elected member shall be domiciled in the town, shall cease to hold office immediately upon ceasing to be so domiciled. There will also be 2 ex officio members. One shall be appointed from the Board of Selectmen and the other appointed from the school board. Ex officio members are voting members, but are prohibited from serving as chairman. The point I want to make, because this is a change with the no selectman, town manager, member of school board, et cetera, shall serve as an elected member of the advisory budget committee, ran, as it was voted on at town meeting, became counter to what the townsfolk elected. At the election on the Tuesday before the town hall meeting, Mr. Shackford was elected as a member to this board. When the town voted, they voted that no full-time employee or part-time department head of the town shall hold a position on this board. Mr. Shackford serves as the Department of Public Works department head. In consulting with the lawyers, it was made clear to us that we couldn't then undo a correct election that had happened. But what I can do at this moment is looking at the will of the town, which was that they stated that they did not want to have full-time employees or part-time department heads, village district, selectman, town manager, all the rest of it, sit on the board, is ask Mr. Shackford if he's willing to step aside from that position, knowing that those words were put into this in order to avoid any conflict of interest or perceived conflict of interest, where you would have a town employee or a town manager or a selectman necessarily voting on their own budget, especially when it comes to a full-time employee or a part-time department head. Those 2 pieces, I think, are a bit more important, as while a selectman is ex officio and does vote, that's already in these ordinances. The piece that we're trying to avoid is that an individual who derives their livelihood and their income and their support directly from the budget is not then voting on that budget because they've already had input and put it together. It would unnecessarily constrain the budget committee if we were to, on every occasion from voting, ask whether it's, a full-time town employee or a selectman or the district commissioner, if we had to ask them to recuse themselves from voting on something in order to not have a conflict of interest, that hampers our ability to have a 5-person vote. I open it up for discussion. I open it up for input.
I thought at the town meeting, with the discussion with the attorney, that the new changes wouldn't take effect till next year. Was I wrong on that? Did I misinterpret that? I'm not sure.
No,
Because Josh was elected,
right.
and then the new change came in at the town meeting. I thought the discussion at the town meeting with the attorney was that new rule would not go into effect until next year.
It's not so much that it goes into effect next year, it's that it can't affect an election until next year. Because we don't, unless we were to hold a special town meeting and a special election, it would then be appropriate then, it would go into effect. So that's why Josh is still here.
Yeah, I want to
I'm
make sure
asking-
we're compliant with what was discussed at the town
Yeah.
meeting with the attorney.
Nobody's
Okay.
removing
Okay,
him
okay, that's- I
from
just
the
want-
board. I think what I'm asking is, given what the townspeople voted, I don't know how you feel.
Well, I guess I put in for the elected position. I got 290 some votes, which was be more than what got voted for at town meeting. I certainly would recuse myself from anything on the DPW side of it, and I could explain it, but I don't see why I would have to recuse myself from anything else.
And then other things that would directly affect you, such as town administration.
Yeah.
Okay. So short of like having you step aside, the other alternative then is to work with you with regard to when to recuse, when to step back, when to engage in discussion, when to not engage in discussion, those kinds of things as we move along. Does that sound legitimate?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to see what the individual thing, I mean, I
Oh, yeah.
was, a selectman for a lot of years when the town administrator was the town administrator, and I never had a issue then, and don't have an issue now, so I didn't, yeah, so. yeah,
I
we
mean,
can work.
also, I don't mean specifically town administrator. I mean, health insurance, things like that.
Town administration.
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which, as
so-
town administration affects all the departments, and town administration would have an effect necessarily on you and or your people's, health benefits or, leave or extension of anything, those kinds of things. And I think that it would be appropriate at each point then to have the discussion about that particular issue that we're gonna discuss or
Yeah,
bring up. And
Yeah, if we're gonna discuss it, if I thought that I was gonna be, not impartial, then I certainly would,
well, nobody ever thinks they're
Yes,
not
yeah.
impartial.
well,
So,
everybody has their own opinion too on
Yes.
every other thing, so,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I'm entitled to my opinion, is just like all of us are here.
Absolutely, and,
So-
and I'm not here to restrict anyone's
Yeah.
opinion. I think there needs to be full transparency with regard to, opinions, questions, answers, all those kinds of things. I think that any of the pieces, because again, it all ends up in the lap of the taxpayer to
Right.
shoulder the burden of whatever it is that we here recommend, the selectmen recommend, and then the voters will vote on it. But because it ends up, and we're all taxpayers too, so it ends up in our lap. I think we owe it to them and ourselves in order to be A, as transparent as possible, B, as thorough as possible, and C, as conflict-free as possible.
Yep. Because part of the statutes are appearance, even appearance.
Even the appearance of a
Yeah.
conflict.
So
Correct.
we just want to avoid all appearances.
Well, and I do think that was, because Tino Fernandez, the previous chair, was the person who proposed this, but not without obviously the budget committee having discussed it and talked about it, and supported it. Again, I think that one of his primary reasons was because of that conflict of interest and or appearance of a conflict of interest. So I think that that's as important as the actual conflict, because if everybody out there believes you have a conflict, even if the lawyers say you don't, there's an issue. There's a problem, and maybe it's just a messaging issue that we have to cure and we have to fix, but I think that it's an important one because you want the taxpayers to support what we're doing. We want the taxpayers to support the fact that we are working to do what's financially responsible for the town and be able to address our upcoming responsibilities, obligations, and expenditures, as well as perhaps taking a look at, other areas and suggesting other areas that could be worked on. So, yes, ma'am.
If I misunderstood, please correct me.
Yeah.
But I thought you said that Tino proposed the change in the membership.
He did it at town meeting.
He
It
did
was
it
at
at
the
town
town
meeting.
meeting. He
Okay.
brought it
And
from
it
the
was
floor.
discussed at the
Right.
town meeting.
Okay,
Yes,
because I
yes.
thought you said that the
Committee.
budget committee
At town
talked
meeting.
about it at town
town meeting.
meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
we talked, it was all at town meeting.
Tino brought it up it was his own motion. his for discussion at that time. This is it's a very unique situation, we're kind of,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
And-
especially because we're such a small town.
But what, it was brought up at the town meeting, and the intent, I think, when we discussed then, was, changes would take place the next year.
Well, the
I
change
just
to the
wanna make sure
ordinance
we're following the guidance that was discussed with the
Okay.
attorney at the town meeting.
Right,
Yeah.
now the change was immediate. The change to the ordinance was
Yeah.
approved and immediate.
Right.
But we can't undo an election.
Wait, Linda's gonna.
Actually, it doesn't take effect till April 1st, according to the ordinance. Any
Okay.
changes that happen in town meeting take effect on
Gotcha.
April 1st.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
okay, so not March, whatever it was, but April.
April 1st, okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
But in terms of the budget committee, it's already in
Yeah.
effect.
Mhm.
It's, again, but we're not going to, nor should we try to undo a duly elected
That's my
individual.
concern, I just wanna make
No,
sure
that's
we're
not-
following the guidance.
From a town standpoint and from a committee standpoint, there's no official action to remove Mr. Shackford from his position. I merely was asking whether or not voluntarily he would be interested in doing that,
Okay.
given
I
that that ordinance is now in effect. But Mr. Shackford has proposed that there can be an alternative to that, wherein we would, as issues come up, we would discuss the conflict of interest or appearance of a conflict of interest, discuss with him and figure out whether or not he would need to recuse himself from voting on those things. Which then begs the question that we need to have more people, because as tonight, if he were to recuse himself, we only have two
People.
two members, so.
So there are two
There are two open,
openings.
Two
there are
vacancies.
two open
Full-time
seats
seats.
and then two alternate seats. So there are technically 4 positions that are open, listen to me, open yet. So, okay, anything else on that? I don't wanna necessarily move on from that if there's any concern. Okay, so then do I hear that what we're going to do is just, I don't wanna say ad hoc, but as the situation comes up, stop and discuss the conflict of interest? I feel like
I
I've
think
got
that's
my
a fair,
back to you
that's a
on-
fair, that's a fair approach.
Okay,
Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
are there any other processes and changes the committee would like to adopt? I would like to propose that we have more visibility on revenue. I think that we get so ingrained and so focused on how much we're spending that we don't always have visibility of those funds that are coming into the town that do offset some of those expenses. And I think being able to explain that, and even during discussions with taxpayers at town meeting, in our meetings here, I think would, I go back to the transparency issue, would give more transparency as to how the money and the town is conducting business, how the money's being spent, how the town is conducting business, those revenue sources that we have, those things, and where that revenue is going.
Yep, that
And if it goes into the general fund, great, it's going into the general fund. If it goes into, I know there are a couple 501c3s that there are not.
Not that anything that would come into the town would go into.
Yeah, but it's still, I guess it's revenue, it's just a different stream and it's in a different pot and it's spent by a different person, but it still all should be spent on the town. And do not the auditors take a look at those 501c3s? No?
What one are you talking about?
Well, doesn't I know the fire department used to have a
Not the
501c3.
fire department, the Madison Fire and Rescue is a different entity.
It's a separate LLC or
Yeah,
a 501c3.
Right,
entity.
we
Yeah.
call them friends of kind of
Yeah.
things,
But
but
no,
that's,
the auditors don't look at that.
That's not considered
So
town
when-
revenue or town money, it's the
So-
fire department association.
so when the fire department is standing out there with Christmas trees, say, because
Yeah.
that's the last one I can think of, but I guess Old Home Week, when the Christmas trees are all being sold, where's that money going?
Goes to the Madison Fire and Rescue, which is not the fire department, the town part of the fire department.
Yeah, I'm not saying it goes to the town part of the fire department, I'm saying it goes to a 501c3?
I
But it's my understanding that that doesn't exist anymore.
I don't know how that account is made up, but it is definitely separate from town funds.
Mhm.
Okay.
It is not town funds.
I think that actually needs to be more transparent, because I did look it up, and that nonprofit dissolved in 2020, so 4 years ago. So I think, when folks bought Christmas trees, they assumed it was
Supporting the fire
for
department.
the town. I mean, it was a town fire station, town
Employees.
firefighters, town employees selling it. Maybe they're volunteering. It wasn't clear, but I think it needs to be clear that folks understand, exactly how that money is handled.
Well, and I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility to politely and courteously ask them to include information regarding that. Is there one for Old Home Week?
Not a 501c3, no, I don't believe they are.
There's a
What-
committee, but they don't have, they raise their own funding or something, or does it come from the town?
Well, the town pays for the fireworks, I think.
The
that's-
fireworks, that
that,
was
Other than that, they're pretty self-sustaining based on donations. that kind of thing.
donations.
And
But
that,
their audit, this is what's killing me, and this has been bugging me for quite some time, and they are appointed by the selectmen as a town committee. They used to submit notes or minutes until several years ago. They're audited, their accounts are audited by the auditors in the town report. But there's no other visibility. The meetings are not announced, they're not recorded, they're not minutes. The funds are not obvious to anyone, they're not in the budget. They're in a separate account that is only available in the full auditor's report. And that's a lot of money. And I think the report is on the town website, but it's like $15,000 in income. And then the current account, as of the last town report, was $28,000. And it looks, smells, feels, walks like a town committee.
is it not?
I know we've talked about this like
Yeah.
3 times. And it is unique. And there's a lot of history to how it ended up the way it is. And I'm not the person who can really explain it very well. But I know that Michael understands it. We've had the state of New Hampshire here to explain to the town how this had to be handled. It changed over the years, quite a few years actually. And so
Well, I know at one point they were elected, and it was just
And that
determined
was the
that they
state of
didn't
New
need to be
Hampshire.
elected,
Well,
right?
not that they didn't need to, was that they weren't allowed to because it
there was no
wasn't.
statute.
Exactly.
Yep. I mean, there was a governor's proclamation back in 1899, and then an official one in 1913, establishing Old Home Weeks, an Old Home Day, actually, and not all the towns do Old Home Weeks like Madison.
Was it outside the realm of the possible or feasible to have access to those
Because why
reports?
isn't it? Why aren't we having public meetings? Why aren't we having minutes? Why aren't we having visibility into revenue and budget?
Because if at some, and the only reason I ask this is because if at some point Old Home Week weren't to generate revenue enough to support it, I have no doubt that the committee would come to the town to request expenditure, and we do in terms of man hours and people and resources with regard to, the fire truck is there and they have the slip and slide where they wash them down, and there are, town employees who I'm sure Michael Brooks spends quite a bit of time helping to get all that organized. It's not an easy thing. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of moving parts to it. So I think that it would be to our benefit as a committee and as the town to understand a little bit more about the way things work and what's really there. How
It's-
much is there, how much isn't.
The reason I bring it up is because of the rec committee. There's no RSA or statute to have a rec committee. There's a rec commission, but not a rec committee. So we have a rec committee as an advisory committee to the board, and any donations have to go into a revolving trust fund. Revenue goes into the general fund. It's all money that is tracked. And it's all volunteers except for a part-time rec director. Everything else is volunteers. The committee, the coaches. So I
Like-
don't see how they're all that different.
Well, I think that it's worth continuing to discuss and pursue. The question I would have is, where do we go from here? Mike Brooks is the head of the Old Home Week. Is it officially a committee?
I don't know.
I don't know, it's like
They have a Facebook
advertised as
page.
home,
It
home
was
week committee.
established by the town, it's
Yeah.
appointed by the town, the accounts are audited by the town.
So it's official that
It's official. Okay, so then we, within our capacity, are within our right to, officially reach out and request either A, that they attend a meeting, or B, that they submit a report, just so that we're in the know and,
I think it
That we're
should follow
looking at all.
protocol of all of the
Yeah.
committees,
yeah.
meetings, minutes,
But I'd also like to have a discussion with them.
Yeah. transparency of.
Linda, can we invite them to the next meeting?
That's up to you guys.
Yes?
Yep.
Okay, let's invite them to the next meeting in June. Invite Old Home Week.
I don't even know who them are.
Yeah, I don't either.
It is Mike Brooks, Adam Price, as a member, not as a selectman's rep.
As a citizen.
As a citizen, yep. Danita, Danita
Dudley.
Dudley, I think Jacob Martin, if I'm recalling the votes that have come through.
And that, so that's like maybe 4 people?
I think at this point, yeah. Candy's retired.
Candy's retired, okay. Okay, we can invite them and ask them to come and explain to us more how it works and bring their report. They have to be, if they have money and they're spending money and they're bringing in money, they have to do some sort of reconciliation report at least once a year.
budget.
If not,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
yeah, so I think that
No,
it's
I agree.
important that we should at least be able to take a look at it.
And then back to your original point about visibility into revenue. We know the transfer station is a huge amount of revenue.
Yeah, they do.
But we don't know, John reports it at every meeting, how much the transfer station has brought in, I think, so far today.
He's proud of that.
Yeah, he should
Don't
be.
blame him.
But I don't think it's documented
It is.
in the notes, but in the minutes, or it's documented in reports and things.
Reports.
Yeah, because I think the rec department too, I haven't seen the revenue on exactly what rec has brought in. So that's all.
If somebody asks for it, we produce
Yes.
it. I don't
Yeah.
So then I
normally
think,
produce them.
Yeah, I
as we're
think-
talking about budgets and as we're talking about CIPs and all those other things, I think it's important to look at the other side of it, to look at the revenue streams as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Linda, how best, and perhaps that's an ongoing process, how best to represent that as a spreadsheet with the different departments and any revenue streams that they have. I know you wanna, like, daggers when we start talking about spreadsheets, but it could potentially be a whole separate spreadsheet.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it should be able to spit out
Yeah.
from accounting software. But then, so it would have been good at town meeting when people were questioning the rec budget.
To be able to
and
have that.
To be able to say, again, we could have asked for it in advance and not,
Right. But if it
or,
becomes.
the rec committee bad for not asking for an advance, but we knew a roundabout and we were able to, because
Address it
that
then.
revenue helps offset the budget.
Yeah, offsets all your costs. All revenue offsets your costs
Yeah.
for the most part. And I think it's important then that probably every time we update the budget and have that we should have updated revenue.
Well, at town meeting, there's a report in the town report that has all our revenues in it.
Yeah, but it's pretty generic.
How,
How specific am I looking for?
I guess. I think it's the 232.
I think it should be broken down by the revenue generating entities. And then, like, if, I don't wanna know to the penny from every source that they collected this much in fee, like for TVs and for printers, but I think knowing from a line item that we collected this amount of money, I'm using the transfer station because I know John talks about all the different areas all the time. How much we collected from the different, the fee areas, But I think if there are money producing efforts such as selling something versus donations, I think those should be two separate lines. How much was donations? How much was a a revenue producing effort, so to speak? Like we sold something, burgers at Old Home Week or Christmas trees in front of the town hall or any of those kinds of things.
Yeah, well, those kinds of things wouldn't go
No,
into
yeah,
that
they're
as
too
revenue.
too specific for
Well,
that.
they just wouldn't, because there's a place for the rec department ones, and we don't keep track in this kind of thing for anything for having to do
Yeah.
with, the fire.
Okay, so.
Yeah, I don't see, there's a miscellaneous or an other, but I don't see like rec.
Well, that's, right,
Again,
because that's
at
its
that
own,
level.
that's what goes into the general fund.
Mm-hmm.
So that, your rec donations don't go in the general fund.
No, but the fees from summer camp, like the $21,000 or whatever, that were fees from summer camp that went into the general fund.
Yeah, well, yeah, they must be listed there somewhere,
Yeah.
but they could be, like you say, right, it's not in a generic.
Right, and not in a format that's recognizable.
Yeah, it's in a generic line or something, broken out.
Okay. Mr. Judkins, you've had your hand up twice. Do you have a comment?
I may be wrong, but I think I recall looking at the trustees of the trust fund presentation in the town board. And I believe the Old Home Week Committee has a line in there. They have money in the trust fund.
That was, I wanna say closed out this past year. Or last year or something like that. There was something in there, you're right.
Nothing approaching the numbers you were.
No, like $1,800, said $1,400, $1,800.
No?
I don't recall closing out any Old Home Week accounts.
It was 3,000 or 4,000. I guess you're right, it was removed, so.
Yeah, there was a,
Maybe
so there's
the
an Old
account-
Home Week donations expendable that's in here. So maybe it was a previous one where whatever the fund
It was
was
listed under
closed out and
trustees.
put into.
It was listed under the trustees of the trust fund.
Yep, I got that page right here.
It was near the bottom.
Yep, there's one here, it's got $3,900,
Big.
a little bit of interest, 4,000. But that 3,800 is, in my mind, is what was closed out, so it sounds like it was moved
I don't-
into it. No?
I don't know, we didn't.
All right, I'll
We would
check
have
it
had, to close a trust fund, town meeting would have to.
It was a couple
go
of years
to
ago,
close
but,
it.
you know,
We did one for conservation,
For the conservation.
Conservation, they moved the funding around.
right, they closed.
Took
an
it out
account.
of
Closed one out,
account,
yeah.
But again, I think all the more reason for us to have at least reports, and if it's not every month, then at least every quarter, that indicate and show what's going on, just where things stand and how they're how they're used and how they're moved around or
Well, yeah,
allocated from one place to another kind of
they,
thing?
they don't. Well, and once it goes, if it's a revenue and it goes into a specific line item and it stays there, cause you can't spend it once it goes in there.
No, but there, you can do things like what the Conservation Commission did, where they moved money by town warrant, moved money out of one fund, moved it into another and closed that old fund out. It's, those kinds of things happen, and having kind of a spreadsheet or at least a synopsis of what all that, a report that tells us where all those revenue streams were and are going.
I just see that those are kind of apples and oranges, because the revenue stream, I think you're talking.
I'm talking about, yeah, I know. It could be apples and oranges, you might be very well right, then it would just be on two different sheets. You know, one would be pure selling things and donations, the other would be money that's moved into the different expendable trusts, those kinds of things. Those would be on different sheets, they would be on different places. But getting an idea for how much money the town actually has, so I want to say in its coffers, I think is an important thing for people to know.
Oh,
And
that's in
for
the
us to-
treasurer's report too.
Yeah.
That says
So
how much
putting,
is in each of
kind of
those.
trying to put that all together, that makes sense for someone who's, that's not gonna be easy, I know, I'm sorry. It's not I don't think it's just the revenue, the pure revenue piece of it, as indicated by, QuickBooks or something of that nature would be easy. That should just be, go in and do the little processing. I know, I'm sorry with my words today. Just run the process to generate a revenue report. There is a process in QuickBooks or whatever other town accounting software we're using, I would imagine.
QuickBooks.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know of an accounting system that doesn't have one, so. Is there anything else? We've kind of beat that horse to death.
No.
Can I get back to general, the process?
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed last season was, we started meeting late in the budget cycle
Mhm.
in the game. And we were kind of playing catch-up.
Mhm.
I would suggest that we try to meet and get involved as the budgets are being built out, or, okay.
That's why I asked
Yeah.
for this meeting
Mhm.
now.
Yeah.
I wanted to hash out some of these
Mhm.
things with, like, are we gonna be doing something slightly different or more different to get that? Because what I don't wanna do, and I don't think any of us wanna do, is go to the town and say, in 3 weeks when we have our next meeting, we'd like this. I'd like them to have kind of an overview of where we're headed and what we're doing now, so that they can prepare and be ready for requests for information, so to speak, and have, I know that there's not gonna be much in the budget. I know there isn't gonna be, obviously, things like healthcare are not gonna be fleshed out. They're gonna be big holes in it. But I think it's important for them to start now, so that as we continue to move forward and ask questions and understand and keep going, that it gives time. Because if we don't have time to ask questions, they don't have time to give us the answers. And if we don't have the answers, we can't educate the taxpayer or ourselves. And then we're in that same loop that we were
Yeah,
last.
it seemed we were playing catch-up a lot
Yes.
last year.
Yes.
Just,
We also have in here a request from Jim Curran, the school board budget committee. What do I do with that?
well,
There's an email from him.
okay.
Could you let the ABC know that the school board would like to have some work sessions on the school CIP in which some had expressed interest? Could you please have them reach out to me?
Yeah, that's right in
Yeah.
line, I think,
Right,
with what
and
we're
I-
discussing, yeah.
I think that is, those are things that need to be happening now.
And I don't know if it's been the practice of the committee in years past to go through the full auditor's report too.
I think we should do that early.
Yeah, because there's this thing that keeps popping up year after year, and it's OPEB, something about post-employment benefits, and it's been a finding since 2019 or 2018 or something.
And that's been rectified.
Over this year?
Yeah,
Okay.
with the 2022 audit.
So understanding what that was and how we fixed it would be good for us to know. Rectified.
Would you suggest that we start to meet monthly then?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so I have the
I
calendar.
actually,
That's why
Linda
I'm
can
looking at
attest
the
to this.
calendar.
I had asked if we could start meeting last month, but it just wasn't gonna work out with
Yeah,
the way the
okay,
selectmen's
all right.
meetings were and availability of personnel. We just, May wasn't gonna, or April wasn't gonna work. But I think that it's important to start meeting monthly now. So if we want to take a look at that, Linda's been kind enough to chart out on these calendars when the Board of Selectmen meetings are by highlighting them in like this pinkish purple color. And as tradition would have it, we normally meet in between those selectmen's meetings.
Mhm.
So that would put our next meeting at potentially June 4th or June 18th. June 4th is a little bit early based on any
It's
results.
only 2 weeks.
Right, it's only
Yeah.
2 weeks from now, and based on any results from this meeting,
Yeah.
that doesn't give town personnel or Linda, not that you're not town personnel, but other town personnel who might have to answer questions or develop any kind of information, doesn't give them a whole lot of time to do that, so I'm looking at June 18th,
18th.
Oh,
and then July.
calendar on the website.
As we get into the summer, I mean, we
I
have
was trying to
4th
look
of
at the
July
calendars,
holiday,
you guys
we
have all
have
the
Old
other
Home
meetings in
Week,
there.
well, that's later in the summer.
Yeah.
You know,
Sorry, I
Labor
went
Day,
down the calendar.
just kinda
So if you look
see
at
where
that,
we fit in.
right in between those two
It's really
each
fantastic,
time,
though.
like July 16th,
16th,
August 13th,
Okay,
September 10th. The question with October is whether it's the 8th or the 22nd.
I lost track of your conversation.
Sorry,
Sorry.
Side
We're-
conversation, sorry.
We're looking at potential dates, monthly dates. When there are 2 selectmen's meetings a month, it's my inclination to have the budget meeting in between those 2. That way it's basically a month from meeting to meeting and gives the town and any of those budget captains, as I call them, time to prepare whatever information it is that we're looking for or answer whatever questions we may have. So I was looking at, obviously today's May 21st, June 18th, July 16th, August 13th, September 10th. The question for October was whether we wanted to have it the 8th or the 22nd. I think because the one in September is the 10th, the one on the 8th could work, but then you're gonna have a big lapse, because I don't
Till
think
the
November
19th.
5th.
I mean, maybe meeting more throughout the year will help resolve it, but I feel like in the end, kind of as crunch time was coming, only meeting monthly wasn't quite,
Enough.
it wasn't quite turning over.
So once we hit
information
January,
fast. Well, things have to be
Or before
finalized
that.
by February.
yeah, so
Correct.
then starting in October, doing twice a month? Because you could do 8 and 22 October, 5 and 19 November.
5 is election day.
that's right, the elections, yeah.
Actually, I think September 10th is election day too.
September 10th? Is that a primary day or something?
Yes.
Tells you how much I'm paying attention.
Yeah,
to
that's
that.
why I'm trying to figure out the holidays and the other days.
Does it need to be a Tuesday?
Based on other, well, I suppose, could we move it to the Monday, the 9th of September?
Or Wednesdays? Because
Wednes-
Mondays tend to be holiday days as well, Labor Day, Columbus Day.
Yeah, Labor Day, I think
People's
it's the
Day, and-
month before that.
And November is Veterans Day on a Monday this year.
Are there conflicts on the meeting room, other nights of the week?
Calendar went
Yeah.
down, but
So
It
obviously,
should be
the
on
Board of
that calendar.
Selectmen's meeting is
Yeah,
Tuesday,
It's
so.
Tuesday.
So what days are you thinking?
Like September 9th, possibly?
Let's see. BOS is not on here, the BOS is the 3rd, 17th.
3rd and 17th. Mhm.
Okay. So the 9th, there's no meeting listed.
There typically aren't any on Mondays, except for.
Except
Sharon's.
for the veteran service at 5. But that's only now once a month, and I think it's the 16th of September for that month.
What day is Labor Day this year?
I believe it's the 1st?
Is it the first?
Is it the 1st?
Second? Okay, just make sure we don't have a conflict there.
Second, yeah.
Yeah.
Utility, no, calendar, not utilities.
Yeah, just bear in mind, there's Monday holidays, September, October, and November.
Yeah. Yeah, Labor Day is September 2nd, so the 9th would be safe.
You wanna mark the 9th as a tentative date? That's in between the two
Uh-huh.
board meetings.
But it's not an election day.
It's not an election day and it's not a holiday,
Right.
Right.
so.
And
Okay.
then October,
So what are you doing June through August? Still Tuesdays?
June 18th, July 16th, and August 13th.
May I? Linda, may I write on the calendar?
Oh.
No?
Um,
Oh, wait, I can have.
we can just
Well,
circle
yeah.
them on here.
Okay, all right.
And give them to them, and who,
Alright.
I don't know who's in charge of
Yeah,
that
who's
The
the
calendar.
keeper?
PDOE is in the mornings, so.
It has to
yeah.
be somebody who has neat handwriting, so the rest of us who don't can understand it.
All right, so June 18th, it's available. July.
16,
16th. And then August,
13,
13th.
June 18, November.
and then,
September 9th.
yes, available.
October, we have Columbus Day, which is
14th,
the
Monday.
14th.
14th is the holiday.
Yeah.
So we could do the 8th and the 22nd.
Let's see, that would give us 1, 2, 3, that's a little over 3 weeks if we go on the 8th between meetings. That seems fair. Okay, if we do October 8th,
But at this point, we're looking at going to 2 a month.
the 8th and the 22nd?
That's what I'm thinking, between the two.
Yeah, because that's,
I think we just have to be careful about how much we're asking for between the 8th and the 22nd when we get to it, because recognize there's only 2 weeks between the meetings.
that's
Asking for anything that
That's
is
when all the
a
budgets are
huge-
ramping up, the school and the town.
Right.
Yeah, there's a
So-
lot of work to be done.
Right.
October,
You can
November,
book
December.
them and then cancel.
This is true, or we can scale back what we're asking for
Yeah,
and say,
we can
you know,
adjust the meetings as we.
yeah. So that's
as we get
October.
Okay,
Yep.
We have 5th and 19th for November.
5th
okay.
was an election day.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
that's,
You wanna do 4th? Or
Okay.
6th?
6th is planning board at 7,
Planning board, okay.
so 4th.
4th,
Fourth?
I guess, and the 19th. Thanksgiving's what, the 28th this year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I should know that.
December 3rd and the 17th
Yeah, because the following
is
is
Christmas
Christmas,
week.
everything's shutting down
Oh, yeah.
for the 2
By the
weeks.
time you get to Thursday and Friday of
Yeah.
that week.
Yeah.
January, I think. That's
Looks like
a
the
holiday in there.
14th and the 28th, well,
January.
Martin Luther King is the 20th?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
not the 13th.
And
Hmm?
inauguration day. Yep, the 20th is Martin Luther King.
Yeah, then you have
And
inauguration day. That's
Yes.
right.
So the 14th is fine,
Yeah,
the 28th,
okay.
What is that? Oh, budget hearing is the 11th.
No, not necessarily, but
Okay.
that is
Yeah.
traditionally how it lands.
Yeah, we're getting,
Tentatively.
we're
it's-
getting late in the game there.
Right.
Yeah,
So that's why, so there, yeah,
that's why the meeting on the 28th of January
is
is
probably important.
pretty important, you know.
So plan a long one?
Yeah,
Well,
Don't
that's
make dinner
gonna be crunch time there, yeah.
I
And
was gonna
still
say-
6 PM? Thank you.
unless there's a reason to change it.
No, but I gotta speak up. How many generally, how many budget committee meetings have we had?
One a
in the
month.
year? So over the course of the year, and I understand what you're saying,
Yeah,
but we're going to, from 6 or 7 meeting, or if that,
Yeah, because we were crammed last year.
we were crammed, Josh.
We were trying
We
to
were
Oh,
playing
I
catch up,
understand.
yeah,
everything
yeah.
in, and it was not,
Oh, it wasn't easy.
wasn't
you
effective.
know, no,
And
I
I-
understand, but we're also putting a lot more work on,
I'm gonna have every Tuesday a set of minutes that's due.
Yeah, you're gonna be,
It's,
Can we have a secretary here so that you don't have to take the minutes?
who's that?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Because, yeah, that's a lot.
Well,
So maybe something to ponder when you have a full board.
yeah, I know we need,
I say get them on the books and reserve, get them posted, get them reserved, cancel as necessary. It's a recommendation.
Or shift,
opinion,
cancel
Or
or shift.
shift.
Cancel or shift,
I know, that's,
that's a recommendation, but.
and two of these dates too, you know, when you do say there's an election day,
Mm.
we're at the polls from
that's the thing, you're there
Right,
all
so
night.
7 to
nine.
7
Yeah,
to
so
9 or
So
10.
on November 4th, I'll be here from 7 in the morning until the end of this meeting here. And then
Yeah.
on the Tuesday, I'll be at the school from 7 in the morning
Plus
until close to 9 at night.
closing
So
out.
that day, that'll be the.
Yeah, it's not a
Very
day
short
off
day.
for you
It's
guys.
not a day, yeah, it's not a day.
That's a shift.
No, that's
That's a shift or
double
cancel,
duty there,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, and that's why I said I think we have to be very careful about what amount of information we might be asking for in some of those meetings. I mean, we can't expect that, you know, we have a meeting on the 8th of October, and then by the 22nd of October, you have a huge amount of information that's different for us because
And if
we've
it's
asked.
parsed out,
If it's,
if
right.
it's spread out
Right.
one at a time.
If there's just one area that we want to look at for that next meeting,
Yeah,
that minimizes the heavy lift on you, and then say for the meeting on the 4th of November, here's a different area, and so that we parse out the areas of the budget a little bit more.
Because I think a lot of what happened and why we were so crammed, it was, okay, this is the current number. How do we get here? What's the history? What were the expenses? And that required digging.
Right.
Mhm.
That required asking for additional information, people needing time to, department heads needing time to get that information.
Yes.
So I think if it's questions that kind of come up slowly before budget season and cram time hits, then pacing ourselves.
Yeah. Well, and I also think delving into a certain area of the budget and not, because one of the things we were doing every meeting was going through the entire budget the whole time. And if we have the information that we need and that department heads are aware of, come the 8th of November, we're gonna be looking, I'm gonna pick on you for a second, we're gonna be looking at DPW. Then he knows, starting, in June or July, that come the 8th of November, we're gonna be delving into that particular piece. And that department head can attend that budget meeting. But we're not gonna have them sit here the whole time necessarily and go through every piece of the budget till we get to his particular or her
not every
particular
other,
piece.
not every other week. Yeah,
Right.
We're not gonna delve like that.
No, I think
Yeah.
it's too hard, and we end up, at least I felt like I ended up at least kind of glossing over things, and because we had so much to get through that we weren't able to pay attention to specific areas and be able to kind of peel it back a little bit and ask those questions and get those well rationed answers. So yes, we are cognizant of the fact that we're asking for additional meetings, to your point. But I also think that we can temper this a bit so that it's not as heavy a lift on department heads and town administration to be getting answers. And, you know, if there's a issue with you know, having someone to help do it, I'm happy to come in and sit down and go through some particular things, because I'll be retired by then. So, right? So I can come, give me this stack of paperwork, and I can go through it and ask questions and do some of those things to figure it out. Okay? Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Also, makes sense that you have department heads on the committee, like a lot of towns do, from what I'm told. That actually the department heads are on the advisory budget committee. According to statute, they can't be, I understand that, but talking to the attorney, our attorney that has a lot of different towns, that their role is actually the DPW director, the fire chief, the police chief is actually on their budget committees. So they don't have to keep getting invited in, and, you know, and I can explain what I can try to explain to you, they're right there, you know, every time, so.
Right.
If you wanna know that in advance, that's just, I'm not, that's just an argument in the other direction, I
Yeah,
guess,
oh,
so.
absolutely. I would like all of the budget captains in the town to know. The people who, I call them the budget captains, those people who are developing the budgets for their departments or areas and sub-departments, that kind of thing. They're invited to come to a budget committee meeting anytime that they would like. There is no time, I don't think, that we would ever turn them away if they had questions or things that they wanted to discuss with us and let us know, make us aware of, make sure that we understood in depth different pieces of what they're doing. I'm happy to hear them anytime, and they have a standing invitation to come sit with us and discuss it.
Yeah, but it is also a good idea to say at this meeting we'll be discussing the
Right.
library budget.
Right.
Library, please send someone.
Yeah, which then begs that we're gonna have to spend some time, I'll have to spend a little time putting together a more well thought out agenda as we go forward.
Yeah, specific
Specific.
budget areas that will be discussed at that meeting, yeah.
Okay,
All right, I think
Anything
that's
else?
the plan.
yes, no?
No, I
Everything?
think I
Okay.
think it will be, actually, it will be
I think a
easier
little
to
more
follow, yeah, and less work. If we move to the schedule, one, we're preparing several months in advance now, 3 or 4 months from when we started last year. So
Right.
it should go a lot smoother, I would think.
Okay, moving on to the next thing. Initial evaluation of the town CIP. This is good, because I do think that we need to spend more time working with the CIP than we've had a chance to do in the previous years, or at least the 2 or so years that I've been doing this.
The selectmen haven't seen this.
They haven't, okay.
This, is the 10-year spread that Ned did.
This is, yeah, Ned's department, wasn't Ned's department.
He had it done through last year. I just kinda added a few things that could be added, cause we got rid of 23 and added 24, and I just added a few little things to it. But,
So what constitutes what goes on the CIP and what doesn't? Because, you know, vehicle fleet is a page and a half portrait in the town report, but this, you know, this has maybe 15, 20 pieces of equipment?
Well, these are ones we're paying for,
Okay.
compared to ones that are if it's not on here,
Mm.
it's probably already paid for.
Already paid off or town property.
It doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily have an annual expense like.
And/or we're not saving for a new one.
Yeah, we should probably start doing that.
Save for new ones?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that, actually, that's a good lead-in, thank you. I was at the transfer station the other day, and this impacts Josh, like his opinion. John had mentioned that the town road grader may have issues with the engine, cracked block possibly or something.
Did you not
But
watch the last selectmen's meeting?
No. Oh, okay, so sorry, maybe I'm
No,
repeating
no,
what
yeah,
Kit
but no,
came up.
it's- For
That's a-
anybody who didn't.
That's
yeah.
something we may wanna consider adding to the CIP is, budgeting, to replace the town road grader.
Yeah, at the meeting, Dave Swift is in charge of kind of tracking the flow.
Okay, all right, sorry.
Yeah, no.
I know I'm just bringing up something that.
No, it's-
It's already been addressed.
No, it hasn't.
Oh.
It hasn't.
No.
No, but my understanding is Dave Swift tracks the fleet in the new
Yeah.
iWork software, and that includes, not just
Mm-hmm.
DPW, but other departments and stuff. And I had asked if we had reconciled the CIP against the fleet
Okay,
in iWork, and he was like, if I understood, I'm like, no, we have that information in iWork. So that is something we should probably do, because even if we're not leasing it, or even if we still owe money on it, even if we own it outright, we're still gonna need to replace, and the grader being the prime example. I mean, my understanding is that's 1980s, it's 40 years old.
It's almost a 1988 or 87.
So how many hours?
Of the hour meter broke.
the hour meter's broken.
Well, no, it broke a long time ago. We had it replaced, and I think
Yeah.
it's got 8,000 hours, so it's probably got 20,000 hours.
It's worn out.
Yeah.
So
it's-
let me ask you this question then, because I'm not a vehicle expert. I know how often I replace my own vehicles. Do you go more by age, or do you go more by hours of operation, or do you use a combination of both for when we're going to say, okay, we bought this grader in 1980, in the year 2000 we should be starting to look at putting away money, or in 1985 we should be putting away money, so that when we have to replace it 10 years from now.
I can tell you over the last 20 years, that's been a very hot topic of discussion, and everybody has different opinions on how we should go about it, and whether we put money away or pay for it. It also depends on interest rates and things like that, but every town does it differently. I mean, I know some towns have rotations of, like the town of Conway, they replace their grader every, I think it's 20 years. Just that's the way it is, and they every 20 years. There's some towns that replace their grader every 5 years.
How
or
old's their
sometimes.
grader? Maybe we should go ask.
I know, I was
them
just thinking,
that.
who
Well,
replaced 75? Let me grab
We
it.
were just, that's what we're looking into doing, and I think, because, a new grader is somewhere in the, they're around $500,000 for a brand new grader.
Oh, yeah, $400,000 to $500,000
Yeah, in
for a
that
nice
time range, but there's
Yeah.
a lot of these towns, there's a lot of towns now that are doing 5-year and 10-year lease, turn-ins, and, and some of the smaller towns, or the towns that have less money to spend or didn't plan for it, are buying those lease turn-ins, and that's how they're getting their graders, and, keeping them for 10 years and whatever. And we've been looking at that over the last year or so, and they're being sold before we can even talk about it. We called Caterpillar today, and they have 10 lease purchases being turned in the month of July, and they're already sold. They're not even turned in yet.
People are looking for
Yeah.
half-price equipment.
Right.
Yeah.
So
It's one of those situations where you're gonna be standing at the door.
At the
When
door,
they're
right.
coming in,
Yeah.
yeah, when they're being
Yeah.
turned in.
It's like trying to buy into a neighborhood. You got to be
You know,
knocking
they
on
talk.
the old widow's
Yeah.
door to figure out when she's.
Well, but it's a
moved.
critical piece of equipment. We
Yeah, the
need to
grader.
pencil it into the budget
Yeah.
somehow, because it's gonna be sooner rather than later that the current grader,
Well,
Well, it's
It's
not
not
sooner.
breakdown.
It's now. It's
yeah,
broken,
that's
isn't
the
it?
problem we're into, and I think because we got to fix it. Actually, I'll tell you, the Caterpillar came today and looked at it, and the water pump was gone. We didn't. Thankfully, it's not a cracked block, because
Oh,
then we were
geez,
in
okay.
real trouble.
Yeah.
But it's a water pump, and now they're trying to locate a water pump. It's just some of this old equipment they don't even
can't.
have
Where are you
parts
gonna
for
get the
anymore.
parts?
Can't get
Yeah.
parts for anymore. So something as simple as a water pump is, they just 1980. They don't make Caterpillar doesn't make them,
Right.
anymore. And
Try to find one on the
a
shelf somewhere.
refurbished
Yeah.
one or
They
to
have a
fix it.
3D printer at the Conway Library.
Yeah, right. And
They can 3D print heart valves.
just for Caterpillar to come here today is $1,500.
I mean,
is,
no,
you
that's what that's
just
just real world, that's what's
yeah.
up.
Just
Yeah,
to
yeah.
show up.
Which
Yeah.
leads
Show
into
up.
another piece that I think iWork can tell us, which is how much we're spending on each piece of equipment for maintenance.
It does do that, and I'm not 100%. Dave and Dylan are really into it, and they're doing the, they do go to class almost every week for an hour to get the guy that's teaching it. And I've looked at it, and you really got to stay on top of it. Every time you buy a piece, and they're going, and it even tells you when recommended when it should be. It's costing you more money than it is to
That's the
own,
thing.
and
You
that's
reach
a
that
good
point.
tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that should be tying right into the CIP and.
Dave has volunteered to, show anybody at any time, and if you maybe even do a demonstration at a selectmen's meeting, or he come in and do it at a budget committee, he can set it right up on the,
Right up in there.
right up there and show you guys how that all works.
That'd be great. Because I think the CIP needs that. I think if we need to have the fleet, the information from iWork, the CIP, I think it needs to be
While
reconciled.
this, the 1980 town grader is down, is it possible, can you rent from CAT for like 30 days or 60
Yeah.
days?
Well, you
Enough
can
to do the roads?
if they have a grader to rent.
Okay.
We actually ended up Gordon Burke's quarry.
Yeah.
They have a grader, and we rented that. It just left today. We had it all last week. Use it every day.
Yeah, that's.
But,
yeah.
grading roads, it's tough. You can't do it when it's too wet. You can't,
Do it, yeah.
it's gotta be,
Gotta be the right.
it's gotta be right, or you're just making mud. And sometimes we had to make mud. I apologize on your road. We did, and it's what happens, and you gotta have some dry weather. It's, when you have a machine, you rent a machine, you gotta use it while you have it.
Yeah.
And
That's the thing,
we
'cause
did. and,
We gotta get the
yeah.
roads done too.
It's $3,000 a week.
$3,000 a week to rent a
$3,000
grader.
a week to rent it.
No, $600 a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
plus you have to fuel it and,
Yeah,
So-
you provide the operator too?
yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Wait, you said they did or redo?
No, it's
We
not,
drive.
the town
Town
operates
Town
it.
operates.
This is just,
Yeah.
they drop the
That's what I
equipment
was
off.
saying.
Yeah, that's
We
what
fuel it and run it,
I
yeah.
thought you were saying they provide the
No,
operator.
that's what I was asking, if they provide,
So, the grader's not on here.
No, so I'll tell you a little history. I think about, let's see, I'm just probably, it was less than 20 years ago. The grader was 20-something years old, and it needed a repair, and I can't remember exactly what the repair was. It was a transmission or something like that. And then we had an opportunity at that point. I think we could have bought a brand-new grader. We had to put $30,000 into we could either put $30,000 into the grader to make the repair, or we could have bought a new one it was like, at that time, it was like $300,000 for a brand new one. And this was, I wanna say, it was less than 20 years ago.
18 years ago.
18 years ago.
I was here on that night.
Oh, yeah, you were, yeah.
Mhm.
So, we had a public hearing. Yeah, we had a public hearing to see what the town wanted to do, and we really got told that we should never, ever sell that grader and keep it for eternity, and I kind of got, I took that to heart, and we actually took it off the CIP, and we said $30,000, put $30,000 into that grader, and then, that was 20-something years ago, and I can't tell you, we had a trust fund at one point. It had $100,000 in it because we were saving up for a new grader, and I can't remember how it all worked, but they said, no, we're not gonna.
Right, they changed it from the greater restoration
Yeah.
fund to the highway heavy equipment fund, so
Yeah.
that it could be used for other.
Other equipment.
Yeah.
but
We
it's at the point now that we need to consider, it's
Not
a
consider,
40-year-old
it
grader.
needs to be
yeah.
on
It
there,
needs to be on
otherwise-
the CIP.
Otherwise, the only other way you're gonna do it, if God forbid something happens in the next year or two, and that thing totally gets to the point where it cannot be repaired,
Yeah.
nothing can be replaced, cause the parts
Yeah.
are out of stock, gone, nobody makes them anymore.
And that's something I wanna, I'm gonna talk to the selectmen about it briefly at the last meeting, and talk to you folks about it. I mean, that's, we're in a position now, it's, last year we got offered, they were gonna let us trade it for $30,000. They were gonna give us $30,000 for a trade-in on that.
That's pretty good
grader.
for a 40-year-old truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah,
good. Take
so,
it.
but while we still can get some, and that's another thing about, you know, things on the CIP and how keeping them for 5 or 10 years, you know, get rid of them while they're still worth something, you know, like.
Well, you have to
if
do the
that-
balance.
Yeah, you do, yeah.
If that block was cracked, that would be worth 0. You know,
That's true, yeah.
I think we can fix it, but how much money are we gonna put into this thing
How much-
every single year?
How much did you put in last year? 50?
50 grand.
50
yeah.
grand.
So
Yeah.
50 grand last year,
Yeah.
you're gonna put in
10,
10
Probably,
grand this
yeah.
year.
yeah,
And the estimate was 25
yeah,
last year.
yeah.
Ended up being 50.
Right, well, everything
Because
was,
they had to make parts.
So,
Yeah, there was
That's
a
the
wiring,
parts.
the wiring harness caught on fire,
oh,
and they didn't make wiring harnesses for that anymore, and they had to rebuild one at Caterpillar.
They had actually had to
So-
fabricate
Yeah,
parts too.
yeah.
do we not then, like, I mean, this may seem naive, but I buy a car, I know it's gonna be obsolete after however many years. I automatically start putting away a little money all the time. Do we not, even when, like, I see these 21 through 25 vehicles on here, these lease purchases are gonna go away. We're gonna have these vehicles at some point. I mean, you know you bought it in 2021. The truck's only good for 20 to 30 years. Why is there nothing in here starting at the 10-year mark that puts, it would be a lot lower number, and you'd be putting away for a lot longer,
Yeah.
that then, you know, addresses the fact that here's the 10 vehicles we have, and even if it's not every year, maybe it's 10 grand every other year,
Yeah.
but it's a methodical way for our CIP to address those things that we know have a shelf life and have an expiration date on them because they get used and abused, and so.
I don't disagree with you at all, and I think you're 100% right, and I can just tell you from experience that, you know, being on the board, and I was on the selectman's rep to this board for quite a few years, and spent, you know, you had a lot of different opinions on that, and there was, you know, when we did a CIP in the past, you know, that was the first thing that got cut. You know, when we always trying to cut the budget, so you're saving. We're trying to save for something to avoid these issues in the future, and like, oh, we gotta cut. We can't go over this dollar figure. We
Yeah.
can't go over this, and
Yeah.
we would meet with the budget committee. It's like, well, why don't we cut this $50,000 or $20,000 out, or $10,000 that we're saving for our new grader
Right.
or truck or fire truck or whatever that, you know, we don't need that. And we'll cut that, and that'll keep the budget this low. And so I'll tell you, there's been a lot of that, what you're suggesting, and in my opinion, that's the way to go. But I tell you, that's the first thing that gets cut.
Well, I think that we have data now that we didn't have in the past. We have iWork, we have a lot more information to
40
work
years
with.
of greater history.
40 years
Yeah.
of history, yeah.
And we have a lot more information than we've had in the past
You-
to be able to make informed decisions.
You know, look at last year with DPW, right, they did a great job on the transfer station truck, the new truck. The big red truck, it's wearing out. It was costing a lot of money to fix. It's gonna need, new turbocharger, air brake system, you know.
We're hoping it's gonna last.
Hope it lasts to that trade-in, that $40,000 trade-in.
Yeah.
But, you know, and the new truck was $225,000. Dave Swift did a really good job, found a beautiful new truck left over,
Yeah.
a 2023, with a 7-year warranty.
Mm.
So, you know, all the major components on that truck are covered, and, you know, we're gonna get 20 years out of that truck. But again, it's a lot cheaper let's get rid of the problematic truck, we get the new truck in, and we know we're good, minimum 7 years on any expensive repairs. And I think that would be a good approach with the road grader as well. Right now we're talking, well, it needs a water pump. Two months from now, it could be the hydraulic motor's gone or
Right.
something, right? And, you know, we're still stuck with a 40-year-old
Truck.
hot 12,000 hour grader.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of dynamics with these
Mhm.
capital plans. I worked with one for many years, and we put money away.
Mhm.
a dynamic that you don't think about at the time. You're putting away, say, $20,000 a year for a grader for 15 years. The cost of the grader is
Going up as
It
well,
does,
yes.
So at the end, you really don't, you can't just write a check and buy something.
Right.
It takes the burn off.
It does.
Yeah.
Well, look at the price has gone up on the graders from 300K to 500K.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
you know,
that's
just a
actually
few
not
years.
bad considering.
Yeah, no,
It's
but
been
$500,000
10 years
for a road
Yeah,
grader?
yeah.
Oh,
But if
yeah,
you're
you know.
sticking money away, you're
Yeah,
not gonna
yeah.
have 500,000.
No,
No, but you'd have 300 of the 500,000.
Yeah, you'd have some
Which
money.
takes the sting out
It's your
of,
best estimate.
and
so it's-
some,
Yeah.
and that's, you know, talking to Caterpillar and John Deere and United, the big companies, you know, they're, what a lot of towns are doing, or what you're seeing is they're doing those lease purchases, and so you know what you're gonna be paying for the next 10 years. So you're gonna have that for 10 years, and you're gonna be paying, you know, 25,000 or 30, whatever the payment is for that year, 30,000.
31,800.
Yeah, and it's gonna be forever, you know, so after 10 years, that's gonna go away, and your warranty's gone, and then you're gonna get a new grader and you know, whatever the payment's gonna be. So-
And those lease purchases all work really well when the interest rates are low.
Mm.
But even if you look at our capital improvement plan here, you can see that going in from 2021, we've been doing these lease purchases, went from 2.99% to 5.94%. And I would suspect that if you were to do it today, in 2024, it would be potentially even higher.
Probably
So the
6.5%,
balance of
7%.
where that makes sense and doesn't make sense based
Mhm.
on the interest rates
Right.
that you're getting and what you would be paying, all of that has to be gone into and talked about, and the analytics of it have to be done to say, at what point, where's the break-even point for purchasing it outright versus the lease purchase piece of it? And you can't make those decisions without numbers. You gotta have some numbers. And you can't have the numbers if you don't put it on the CIP,
And
right?
if you have, even if you don't have enough money to purchase the equipment, you have enough, if you have trade-in plus down payment,
Yes.
that brings the interest rate down.
Down.
hopefully.
Well, I mean, the example with Dave Swift and the truck, you know, 40 grand, and there was some money from the transfer station, you know, revenue from the aluminum cans and the cardboard, all the other. What we ended up, only, the payment's 150K or something. So we got a brand new truck for, you know, $150,000.
And there's another thing, I guess, that going to Sharon's point, that my personal opinion, that 150K, I would have bought that truck instead of doing a 5-year lease with the interest. I know it's not a great big interest rate, but I think you could have bought that truck and saved money, you know, and we would have owned it instead of putting it out for a 5-year lease. But that's my opinion.
Well, it's a lease to own though, right? After
Yeah,
5
yeah, right,
years
yeah,
or whatever.
yeah.
We're basically financing it.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
buying a new
right,
car at
exactly, yeah.
the dealership, yeah.
But I would have just bought it.
So what is it that anyone needs from us specifically, and maybe Linda can answer this question, or Josh, you can, in order to make sure that that grader gets put on this? Does it make sense at this point to even put it on here, or are we too far down the road? There's no way that putting the grader on here, you'd have to figure it out for the next 2 years, because
But I think yes, because I think that this is the big picture of everything. And I think even having that
massive
as part
number.
of the big picture, we're gonna have to do something.
It's something we're gonna have to do
Well,
sooner rather
So
than
we
later.
need to have all the numbers in one place.
Yeah,
There-
I would put it on the
And
plan.
put it in a separate bottom if you wanna separate it out and say this is kind of a unique piece, but.
So we're looking at adding number 7 under DPW highway that says grader. Is that what we're asking?
I think all the equipment should be in the capital improvement plan.
There is that point. That'd be a really long capital improvement.
It would, but
Not just those things they're looking to upgrade.
because everything's going to need to be replaced
Placed.
at some point.
Well,
So
What's
those
the
want
life,
to-
what's
unless
the
you get
life
rid of it.
cycle
So,
of the equipment?
yeah, so if you, exactly, and
Yeah.
iWork should help with that.
Yeah.
Should help us put together that data of, this typically lasts 100,000 miles. This typically lasts 600,000 miles, like, and how fast are we using it? Like, an
So-
estimated, even if it doesn't end up in the capital improvement plan, at least an estimated replacement date.
So what
and what we're gonna need to,
What I think I hear you asking for is a life cycle plan
A
as
life
opposed to
cycle,
the
yeah.
capital improvement
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
And those things that hit a certain point in the life cycle plan then move to the capital improvement plan.
There you go.
So you have something, you buy a brand new vehicle this year, you expect it to last 20 years. At year 10, you move it to the capital, it gets placed on the capital improvement plan, but then you have at least have statistics from iWorks and everything else that say why you moved it to that capital improvement plan in order to then start planning for the replacement of it.
yep,
Okay, whom are we gonna get the life cycle spreadsheet printout thing? Dave, is that Dave?
I can work with Dave or some, I know
Yeah,
Dave,
yeah, if you,
I know Dave,
yeah.
A life
You
cycle
know,
plan.
because we worked together for the new transfer station truck, we
Yeah.
did the cost analysis and everything.
Yeah.
You know,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no.
we should
that-
list the equipment, expected life, you know,
Well, some of the
Yeah.
things
Should
that
be
were
an
here,
iWork,
purchase
like-
Like
costs
an iWork,
without
yeah.
purchase start, the purchase cost, the start year, the financing method, some of the interest rates, and then the life cycle of it.
Yeah.
What year you expect that
it
you're
would be
gonna need
nice
to do.
to spread
And
it out.
more.
Because right now, I guess the priority would be the road grader, that's the number one, right?
Of it.
But eventually, you know, the loader backhoe, like the one that's at the transfer station, that's another
Oh,
30-year-old piece with
right.
15,000 hours on it,
Yeah.
and nobody knows like
That's
how long
just-
it's gonna last, right?
That's just DPW stuff.
Yeah.
That doesn't even take into account the fire department and the police department and some
Yeah,
of
that's the
their
finance.
vehicles that need replacing.
That's kind of easy. Well, I don't want to say easy. I don't want to say that, but they
Bob King
they
would
have a
disagree.
yeah they have a I mean they already have a rotation kind of with their cars. So
did you say that iWork does an analysis of when something should be replaced versus
they
repaired?
tell you based on it tells you
Usage?
based on usage and how many hours it has on it and how much money it's put in it. That if it's yellow, it's like. You're getting close. If it's in the red, and it tells you I think it tells you a percentage of what.
Yeah.
But
should
is that based on
replace.
parameters that you put into the system?
No,
or
it's
is that
based on parameters
the
that are in
industry,
iWork. Yeah.
sort of industry averages? Okay.
So you know that like the road grader, when you start hitting 8,000-9,000 hours on the hour clock and it's 15 years old,
Yeah.
you go, okay, it's yellow.
Does it
Yeah, you
account,
better
right,
you
yeah.
better start looking.
Looking.
Yeah.
does it account for money that you've invested in order to fix a water pump? That kind of thing.
It will now, but the thing is, like Dave said, he just started this a year ago.
Right.
So, we can't go back.
Yeah.
Well, you can, but it
20
would take
years.
you forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
No, but it gives us
So
an
to work with
idea.
Dave.
I mean, even
Yeah.
Melissa and I know they used to keep track. Melissa Arias
Yeah.
when she was the town administrator, and Linda did after that. I mean, we kept track of it, but not, not like in the computer software program.
Yeah.
And it was,
Okay.
You
So
know,
Joe, you're gonna
I'll
talk
work
to
with
Dave,
Dave. Yeah, I know
and
Dave.
see, even if we just have a preliminary construct of what it might look like for the
We'll
next
start.
meeting.
I think we should start with like the road grader, like for
Well,
the.
it sounds like you
DP.
could just spit out a report for all of it.
Yeah, and,
Yeah, I don't know how that works. How it's
and start
maybe for an individual.
get an idea of one. I think we need to look and go. A lot of input from the operators like Dave. What model cat are we looking to buy? There's 14 Gs and there's 140s. There's
Yeah.
a bunch
Yeah.
of different models.
Yeah.
Do we need the super?
But I think you're even more one step ahead of what
Yeah.
I'm
Okay,
looking for.
okay,
What I'm
alright.
looking for here is the life cycle plan of the existing vehicles that we have.
Okay,
All of
based
the
on
vehicle-
age,
Yeah,
mileage,
like,
hours.
what do you know about them? Almost a spreadsheet that looks
Okay, yeah,
similar
we
to
can do
this.
that.
What do we know about them?
Just an inventory with.
Yeah.
Kind of an
Yeah.
inventory, and that gives you a life cycle of we expect that this vehicle, based on original purchase, and then maybe every 3 to 5 years it updates it
Yeah.
to say, we're riding this thing pretty hard. It's not going to last the 20 years we expected. We're
We-
only going to get 15.
I'd like to
out
see
of
what iWork does, without
Yeah.
anybody
no, that's
having
fine.
to use
Let's-
a finger,
all right, let's
without
see what we
anybody
can
having
do.
to crunch numbers, let's just see what
it.
iWork
because
does.
we-
What about inviting Dave to the next meeting to ask?
Dave is really good. I mean, he's
Can
a
we
sharp
invite
guy.
him to the next meeting
Yeah.
to see if he would like to give us a demonstration on iWork?
I usually see
Yeah.
him at the transfer station
Okay.
on Brown
Yeah.
too. I'll
We should just give
I'll
them a
reach
heads
out
up as
to
to
him.
what we're looking for.
and just say, hey Dave, we're gonna put together kind of a life cycle for the equipment We're trying to add it into the CIP.
Use that to
To
feed the
see-
CIP.
You know, when we start budgeting, you know, for the new equipment.
Right.
And, you know, that will give us a long-term, you know, 10-year picture of kind of what we can expect.
Or longer, yeah.
You know,
Okay.
they do have beautiful equipment. Did you see the new dump truck that came with the stainless steel body and stuff? No, I mean,
You're presuming I get to see anything that is not on the road between
Well,
my
wait.
house. I see Josh probably more often than.
It's been
than
on your
anybody.
road, I can
Yeah.
tell you that.
yeah, no,
It's been on my road? Okay.
no, but again, you know, we do have some very nice equipment and, you know, so, which is good, right? Because the new equipment requires less maintenance, repairs, that type of thing. So, but I
Okay.
think, all right, we'll work on that and,
Okay,
So basically, the ask of Dave before he shows up, so we can kind of.
Yeah,
fence
I'll-
around
I'll
with
hit
the
up Dave
coordinates, is
and-
just, the equipment, that kind of that.
yeah, the
analysis,
listing,
that
full
red,
listing
yellow.
of the equipment, which
Yeah.
should already be in iWorks,
Right,
right?
right.
And then,
Just super high level
I mean,
concept
is
of
there,
what we're looking for.
is our entire inventory, the town's entire inventory already in iWorks, or is he still working on that?
No, it's all, I think it's all in there, but
Okay,
there's
to
a
various-
few things that, like we were talking about, he said he hadn't put our chipper in. You know, also our chipper is a 1986 or 88, it's as old as the
89 looks
grader
like,
and
yeah.
we've, you know, so he didn't put that in. And obviously chippers have been in high demand.
I was gonna say, the last month, you've been
Yeah.
using it a lot, yeah.
Well, we haven't been using it because we'd started using it and it blew the clutch. And we're still waiting for parts, and we've had to rent chippers several different times. So.
No, I
Speaking of
know.
the chipper, West Shore looks amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
No, great job on
Yeah.
East Shore,
Yeah.
West Shore.
West
Okay.
Shore,
It's
yeah,
all
West
cleaned
Shore
up.
looked like a
Alexander was all cleaned up,
Yeah.
really nice.
Linda.
Good job on the
Okay.
guys.
All right, what else do we need to take care of? The school CIP invitation we already talked about. Linda, I'll get with you, I'll get Jim's contact information and I'll let him know that we would like to take him up on his invitation and work with him.
Sure, do you want me to just send it to you?
Sure, or if you
Is
just
it-
wanna send him an email and
it's-
info me or something. I don't wanna make more work for you.
His email was on the email.
Is it? No,
Oh, I
no,
don't think
it's
so.
just
Oh, okay.
I
from
think I just kind
Jim
of picked it out of
Curran.
it,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Okay.
And then is there anybody else who wants to do that with me?
What, the school CIP?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, no, I'm not for, I'm looking to make sure I'm not excluding anyone,
Yeah.
so.
I'll work on the,
You work on the
vehicle ones.
vehicles,
Yeah, yeah.
our CIP.
You can do the school
You
one.
work on our CIP, I'll work on the school CIP. I think ours is actually maybe in a little bit better shape from my perspective.
It's,
Okay, and then.
I've never even seen the schools, but
You haven't?
Yeah, it's big.
I'll have to,
And I think
I
they
think I have one in
include,
here.
like not, obviously it's more building and less equipment.
Yeah, a lot of theirs is the HVAC system, the heat
Yeah.
system, and
Yeah.
a lot of the capital equipment in the school.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, any other business?
Nothing I can think of.
I would like to ask Mr. Judkins, since he's here tonight, if he's interested in sitting on the budget advisory, based on the input that you've been giving us and your history of the town. Are you interested in sitting on the budget advisory
I
budget
can-
committee? Okay, Linda, how do we does he have to fill out the form and,
It
or
probably.
can I just go, you're on the board?
Well, according to the ordinance, you have the authority to appoint,
Okay.
selectmen would process it, so.
Okay, then, do I need to make a motion and say, no, it's just me, right? Just the chairman?
Yeah, it's
That's how the ordinance reads.
That's how the ordinance reads.
All
I
right,
think you
well,
say, yeah.
Omni Domini, Mr. Judkins.
Like a blessing.
He has to be
Right?
willing, I think.
Yeah, are you willing?
Yeah. Are you willing?
You're
Yeah.
willing?
Yes.
Okay. Then I would like to have Mr. Judkins become a formal member of the advisory budget committee. And if anyone has anybody else that they know of that they think would add value to the board, who understands budgeting processes and, various areas and aspects, please make them aware that contact me. I can talk to them about their background, their budgeting and that kind of thing, their willingness, their desire. Okay?
Might I
Yes, sir.
suggest, we just start looking for somebody, I know we're gonna have to pay for it, but looking for somebody to maybe take some minutes?
Yeah, if we have a full board, one of us can do it.
It's up to the, yeah.
Yeah. With a little bit of tutelage as to what level of detail
Yeah.
we are required to put in there. Linda's like, I don't know, I just take notes.
Linda sets a high bar.
She
That's what
does, she does, she
It's gonna
does.
be
Her
tough.
and Kate both.
Right. You know, a poor Kate I know with a ZBA. All right, so we could always look for someone who's interested in being the secretary and doing notes
Ask
to
the selectmen
alleviate.
if that, you know, but be through the selectmen, but if,
Well, maybe one of the, I mean, if it's 7 people, if a full board is 7 people, then one of the 7 people might be able to,
Even an
Do
alternate,
it.
someone who's an
Yeah.
alternate that night
yeah,
who might be willing to take notes.
Yep.
I know, I mean, I do it for there's no requirement that I'm aware of that it has to be a Linda or a Kate or something. I think it can be anybody.
It just kind of morphed to be me.
Yeah.
that's worth it.
But
Wait.
there's a lot of other morphing going on for
Yeah.
you, so. Um,
I
All right.
said I wanted to find out how it all worked, and
you got what you wished for, didn't you?
I, more than,
Like, now
Okay.
I know, now I can trace
And I
else.
think, yes, the polite thing to do and the correct thing to do would be to notify the selectmen that that's what we're doing too, so that they're aware. Not so that they think they have more of Linda's time, but so that they are aware that we're trying to.
Oh,
But
we
wait,
give
can we just,
Linda her
can,
time.
can we just presume we just notified the selectmen by telling Selectman Gray over there?
There you go.
That is
That's-
my notes.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, if we could, she could bring it to them, you know, the next selectmen's meeting and,
With minutes from, that she reports out from this meeting?
yeah, just if we can, I know, you know, budgeting thing, you know, we didn't budget for it, but
No, we did
it's,
not.
it's.
But we might be able to get a volunteer to do that
Yeah.
until we have the ability to potentially put it in the budget for next year.
we've been looking for someone for conservation for like 3 years.
Really?
Yeah,
Well, because I think they have to have some kind of land use experience or some kind of.
Oh, if you know how to take minutes.
Right.
yeah,
You just write down the stuff you don't understand as
Yeah.
exactly as they said it.
yeah.
And because these are all taped, you
I was
can
gonna
go
say,
back and look.
Play it back.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
No, it definitely would help if they understand a little bit about how it works. It's,
Right.
you know, no brainer, but.
Okay. Look
All right.
for note taker. All right. Any other public comments or any other comments of any kind? No? Well, then there being no further business before the advisory budget committee, I hereby adjourn.
Good.
Do I
I make a
make a
motion
motion?
to adjourn.
I was gonna say.
Seconded.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.